Hello Year 10. You're going to have to forgive me a little bit for this one. I'm having to film this at home because this term we are looking at beans, seeds and nuts and protein alternatives, and there are various recipes that I cannot show you in school because I don't want to take nuts into the kitchen at school. So I'm going to show you at home, and then I would like you guys to have a go at making these recipes at home too. We're starting with something which I make all the time, which is granola. We don't buy breakfast cereal. I always make our breakfast cereal, and as you can see, we're down to the last little dregs in here. So we need to make some more. So I'm going to start by showing you this. This is my box of nuts and dried fruit. It's not all of my nuts and dried fruit, it's just some of them. We've got all sorts in here. I've got a bag of mixed nuts, I've got some dates, I've got some flaked almonds, I've got some hazelnuts, apricots, cranberries, all sorts. I always keep a large stock of these sorts of things in the house because they are so good for baking with. And they keep. So that is always in my cupboard. So let's actually start. I've already preheated my oven to 160 degrees. We're then going to weigh out 200 grams of nuts. Now I'm going to do some mixed nuts and some flaked almonds. These mixed nuts have come from Waitrose. I would say that this bag was £10, so it's quite expensive. Aldi's bags of mixed nuts are excellent. Sainsbury's less good. But I was in Waitrose, so I'll pick that one up. In this particular bag of mixed nuts, we have got some walnuts, some Brazil nuts, which I think is a bit of a waste, which is one of the reasons why I like the Aldi ones, because they don't have Brazil nuts. I always feel like Brazil nuts are like just to bulk it out. They're not particularly, they're nice covered in chocolate. Almonds, pecans, king of the nuts. The Aldi one doesn't have pecans in, but you can buy big bags of pecans at Aldi. Hazelnuts, which are the ones which are in Nutella. The ones from Aldi have cashews in, which are particularly delicious. Love the cashew. So I'm going to weigh out, we want 200 grams of nuts, but I'm going to do 150 grams of mixed nuts, and then I'm going to do 50 grams of flaked almonds, because the flaked almonds add a nice sort of texture and they go in really well. They like meld in really well. So I've got my 150 grams of mixed nuts, and I'm going to roughly chop these. So I'm just going to rough chop, and how fine you chop them is up to you. If you want big chunks, do big chunks. If you want it very finely chopped, you do that. Whatever you like. That bit doesn't look too good. Oh, it's just the skin. Still, whack that bit in the bin. So you could, if you wanted to, you don't have to use mixed nuts. You could buy individual nuts. You could put some pistachios in. I've got a bag of pistachios here, I can show you in a second. You could put some pistachios in. You could put macadamia nuts in. I think they might be a bit lost. They're quite a mild flavour. You could just do almonds and hazelnuts. So normally I wouldn't bother with Brazil nuts, but you know, they came in the thing, so I'll put them in. It's completely up to you. Just, you need 200 grams of nuts. Right, the chopping board's getting a little full, so I'm going to put some of these into my mixing bowl. Bench scraper, get all these bits. So I've got all my chopped nuts in here, various different sizes. Might break that one up a bit more. Walnut's really soft, you can just do it with your hands. But all different sizes. To this, I'm going to add, well, I'm going to add some flax seeds to begin with. So I've got milled golden flax seeds here. You can do any type of milled flax seeds you like. Flax seeds are high in essential fatty acids, omega oils, but they need to be milled. If you have them where they're whole, the outside, the husk is, or the brown, not 100%, is so thick that it'll basically, your body won't be able to break it down, so it'll just pass through. So we're going to put in some flax seeds. I think I'm going to put in about 30 grams of flax seeds. And then I've got some pumpkin seeds, which I got from Tribe in Farringdon, which is a really nice shop. You should all go and have a look in there. And I'm going to put in about another 30 grams of those. That's a bit more. Like that. So to this, I'm then going to add the oats, which are the main sort of bulk of the oats, which are the main bulk of the granola. I've got two different types here. I've got these ones, which daughter going out the front door to her father, that is fine. Which are slightly larger. Or these ones, which are slightly finer. The choice is ultimately up to you. I would go for slightly large ones, maybe not full on jumbo, but washing's finished. These ones are quite good. What you don't want is the quick oats. Nothing like Oats So Simple or Ready Breck type thing. I'm gonna have to do a mixture. They're too fine, way too fine. So we want 380 grams of oats-ish. It'll be absolutely fine if you go a bit more. Oats are so good for you. They are so good for you. They're high in fiber, so they help keep you full. They are going to help lower cholesterol. And they're just brilliant. Definitely try and get some oats into your diet. To this now we're going to add the flavorings. So we are going to go for half a teaspoon of salt. Oats love salt. You always need to salt your oats. So half a teaspoon of salt, and that's not actually that much when you consider how much granola we've got here. Now my recipe that I have written out, it is my recipe, it says 2 teaspoons of cinnamon and 2 teaspoons of ginger, but clearly I am not going to get 2 teaspoons out of that, so just all of that's going to go in. And we're going to go for 2 teaspoons of ground ginger. You can do more or less spice as you like. I like quite a lot. I know lots of people don't. You don't have to put any in at all. Depends what fruit you're putting in. So I'm putting in like raisins and cranberries. I do a lot of spice, but if I wanted to do like mango and papaya or dried pineapple or something like that, I wouldn't put any in. So that is pretty much our oat mix done. From here, we start looking at our wet ingredients. And then put that off to the side. So we are going to need our jug. And you need a neutral oil, an oil that doesn't taste of anything in particular. I'm going to go with sunflower oil. You could use vegetable oil. The choice is yours, but you don't want to go for like an olive oil. Nothing that has a really strong flavour. I mean, I suppose you could go for a nut oil if you liked. You could go for like a walnut oil, peanut oil. That would be quite nice. I suppose you could go sesame seed oil if you wanted. I've never tried it, but you could. And you want about 40 millilitres. Lots of people really rate coconut oil in this. I just don't use coconut oil particularly. I just don't. It's a highly saturated fat and it's not particularly good for you, so I just don't buy it. But if you want to put coconut oil in, by all means do. Now we're going to add the sugar. I just realised I forgot to put my flaked almonds in. Flaked almonds. Need 50 grams of these. Until I don't do this as my job, doing videos. Right. Back to the sugar. You need a syrup. I'm going to use honey. You could use maple syrup. You can use agave if you wanted. doesn't really matter. I probably wouldn't use golden syrup. Golden syrup is an invert sugar and it's particularly sweet. I use the honey because the honey gives you a slightly sweeter flavour than the maple syrup, and agave costs an awful lot and it doesn't particularly add much, whereas honey does give you quite a nice sort of honey nut flavour, obviously. You have a choice here. You can either go up to the 150 point or you can go up to the 200 point. We like it quite sweet, so I'm going to take it all the way up now to 200. There. And I want to make this runny, as runny as possible. So I'm going to stick it in the microwave for about 20 seconds, 30 seconds. So after 20 seconds, it's much runnier. It's going to mix in an awful lot easier. Bring my mix back. Now it's got the flaked almonds in it. And then I'm going to mix in my honey and oil. So it is a lot of sugar. It absolutely is. We're not going to kid ourselves that this is a health food. It's got lots in here that's really good for you. The nuts are going to be really high in protein. We've got the flax seeds with our omega oils. We're very high in fibre. We're getting some vitamin E. Loads of really good things. But it is high in fat and it is high in sugar. There is no denying that. So you can't just, all I'm saying is, you can't just sit and eat 10 bowls of this and convince yourself you're doing a good thing. You can't. But it is going to be better than having highly processed, frosted flakes or chocolate crispies or something. Definitely better than cornflakes. Like, cornflakes are low in sugar, low in fat, they're low in everything. They're not going to give you much at all. So you can see we have to really mix this until it all looks wet. Start sort of sticking together. You can hear my husband building a fence outside, I'm sorry. At this point, you want to taste it. And check if you've got the seasoning right. I think that needs more salt. So I'm going to go for another half a teaspoon of salt. Obviously, it's your granola. You do whatever you like. You could add cocoa powder to it if you wanted. Make it slightly chocolatey. Be nice. But you do need to give it a really, really good mix. Good. It will taste slightly spicier now than it does when you finish cooking it, if that makes sense. The flavours will mellow out a little bit. So we'll put that to one side for a minute because I'm going to talk about our next ingredient, which is an egg white. You need, for this amount of granola, 1 egg white. It's not going to taste eggy at all. But the egg white is going to help everything sort of crisp up, and it helps everything stay crisp. This amount of granola does my family for 2 weeks. So it needs to stay crisp and not go all stale and horrible. And the egg whites, it's going to help do that. So we're not looking for like soft peaks or anything. We're just trying to get it, loosen it up and make it foamy. Like that. My tiny little whisk to one side. Go back to my granola. Egg white goes in. All of it. And again, you need to really mix that in. You can't overmix this, so don't worry about it. It's not like baking a cake where you can, or making pastry where you can overwork it. Not at all. You just want to make sure that everything's got a really good coating in that egg white. And the protein in the egg white is going to help everything crisp up. Now there are some downsides, of course, to making your own breakfast cereal. The breakfast cereals that we buy at the shops have been fortified. They've had nutrients added to them that they don't naturally contain. So they've had iron added to them, for example. I'm sure you've seen on Instagram or TikTok somebody at some point going mad about the fact that there's little bits of metal in their breakfast cereal. How revolting it is. Well, it's just iron. It's iron that you need. So it doesn't have any iron added to it, but it also doesn't have anything else added to it. So, you know, swings and roundabouts. Right, that's it. That is now done. You're going to need 2 lined baking trays. And you are going to, I'll just do half here. You need to press it out to a nice thin layer. Now, I have done this before without lining the tin, and it was an absolute disaster. Stuck horribly. So do line your tin. Okay. A bit like that. And then that goes in the oven then for 15 minutes. Obviously I'll do the other half in the other tin that I've got lined. And I'll come back to you in about 15 minutes. Okay guys, so after 15 minutes, it looks a bit like this. We've got nice and toasty around the outside and it's starting to look a bit golden. What we're going to do is take our spatula and you are going to turn it over. Now at this point, you're going to decide sort of what level of chunkage you're going to go for. Are you going to go for big chunks of granola or are you going to go for a much finer granola? If you want to go big chunks, then try and sort of be as gentle as you can. If you want to go like smaller, then break it up more. But what we're trying to do is move the bits that were on the outside inwards and the bits that were on the inside, which are less cooked, outwards. So everything gets a nice even cook. going to go back in the oven. And from this point onwards, you're going to have to watch it like a hawk, because you'll have to take it out and turn it, take it out and turn it until it's toasted to the right amount for you. Okay, so I've got my more toasted bits going into the middle and possibly underneath some stuff. And the less toasted bits sat further on the top and out to the sides where they're going to get more heat. All right, so it's going to go back into the oven. So while that's finishing off in the oven, let's talk a little bit about seeds, because I didn't really tell you much about the seeds. I just said that I put flax seeds in and pumpkin seeds in. This is a seed mix, and in here we've got these ones, which are the pumpkin seeds, and then we have some tiny here little sesame seeds. They're the ones that go on top of burger buns, you know, and they're very flavorful. We have some whole flax seeds. I don't think I'll really show you, but you can see how it's very shiny on the outside. Basically, your body's not breaking that down. It's going to pass straight through. You've got some sunflower seeds. You could put a seed mix in like this if you wanted to. Any type of seed is pretty good. Personally, I just like pumpkin seeds. That's what I tend to put in. But if you wanted to do a seed mix, absolutely you can. I've got some other seeds here. This is not confetti sprinkles, obviously. These are poppy seeds, which would be a bit of a waste in granola. They're really nice in a lemon cake though, or on top of bread. They're really lovely on top of bread. Again, very flavorful. Really nice on top of a bagel. But they do go everywhere, hence them being in a old sprinkles container. You could put some chia seeds in. Chia seeds are very good for you. They're very high in protein. They're very high in omega-3 fatty acids. You've got some seeds that you wouldn't put in. So I just had a quick look in my drawer. Caraway seeds. These we'd add for flavour. So they're quite a strong flavour, and they're used in, now the only dish I can think of off the top of my head, you put them in bread to flavour the bread, but they're used in like Troller Grostel and like some Austrian dishes. Really yum, but not what you'd want for this. Fennel, oh no, there's Nigella seeds. Fennel seeds. Again, they're more in sort of like you'd find them in your spice drawer. They've got a slightly aniseedy flavour, and they are absolutely delicious in cooking, but not what you want for this. Very, very strong. Very nice in a bolognese, actually. And Nigella seeds, these are the ones that you get in naans. And they are absolutely delicious, but again, quite a strong flavour, not what you want in your granola. But yeah. So you do whatever seeds you want to do. If you want to do like sunflower, pumpkin, do what you like. Personally, I just like pumpkin seeds. Then we can talk about the dried fruit situation. I don't know what I'm going to do with these seeds now. Bin them. Just pop them in that bowl for now, though those ones are toasted. So, dried fruit. These bags of raisins and cranberries from Aldi are absolutely fantastic. I always have some of these in my cupboard, because then we've got a mixture of like these jumbo raisins. They're not like the sad little raisins that you get in those red boxes. Some lovely, see I've been writing, some lovely dried cranberries, which I really like. Tart, slightly smaller raisins, some sultanas, golden raisins. Really nice. You could put in some apricots. Now you can get chopped apricots. These ones are ridiculously expensive, ones that my daughter insisted that she wanted. They're, you know, the Dutch organic ones. So they're not that sort of orange colour, but they are just as nice. For these ones, you probably want to cut them in half. The only issue with them is they're a bit moist for going in. Maybe into quarters even. You can get chopped apricots, which is what I tend to put in. If you wanted to, you could add some dates. These are pitted dates. They're quite cheap comparative to like the medjool dates. Again, you'd probably want to chop these up. You can see these ones they're really there for baking. They're quite dry. You can put some in if you want. Prunes, so dried plums, absolutely delicious. Way too wet to go into. Way too wet to go into this. Make everything go sticky. Horrible. Dried mango is a really nice one if you're going to do like a tropical vibe. Some dried mango is really nice. I usually put some banana chips in. Again, this is from Aldi. Get a really big bag and they're really nice. And if you're feeling particularly bougie, you could go for like the gently baked cherries. Absolutely delicious. Or the gently baked blueberries. Oh, they're incredible. So nice. I often put in, this is an enormous bag, but you can see some what's the word? Coconut chips. These come raw or toasted. This bag was raw, and then I've toasted some off in the oven myself. Yada yada yada. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, you could add some cocoa nibs if you wanted to give you a chocolate flavour that's not adding any sugar. So you've got cocoa nibs, which are little like cracked bits of cocoa, which are really yum. My daughter loves them on her yogurt in the morning for breakfast. Or you could, at Christmas, I put in crystallized ginger. I chop up very fine some crystallized ginger, like this. And when I say chop up small, I mean like chop up small crystallized ginger. And then I dust it in some more sugar so it's not as sticky. And then mix that in, and that's really yum. Love that for a Christmassy vibe. You can do whatever your heart desires. Ever dried fruit you like. I'm gonna move this out of the way now. Okay, so here they are out the oven. So I've turned them over a few more times and they've reached the level of toastiness that I want them to be. Obviously it's not completely even, we've done our best, but some bits are slightly paler, some bits are slightly darker. Any bits that are looking way too dark, like that bit, just put to one side and have that as a chef's perk. It's all good. Obviously I've just washed my hands as well, I'm not just... As soon as it comes out the oven, it's going to be a little soft still. So we're going to have to let it cool down for a little bit and it'll crisp up. You want to find any bits that are too big, like that's a bit big to go on a spoon, and just break them down a little tiny bit to a more reasonable spoon size. Now I'm not going to give you measurements for the fruit because I don't have any. I just do it now until it looks about right to me. So you do it until it looks about right to you. So I'm going to add some of these. Pick them up. Looks about right. I'm going to add some banana chips. I'm going to break these up a little bit because they're a bit large. And again, we've got to think about it fitting on that spoon. Like I say, you don't have to put banana in, you don't have to put raisins in, you can put any dried fruit that you like. Dried fruit. You could do dried apple, you could do some dried pear. It's all sorts. Honestly, go and have a look in Tribe in Farringdon. They've got loads, they've got like sour cherries. Depends what you like. And you can just buy a little tiny bit. What else do I want? I think I'm going to put some cocoa nibs in this one. They're quite strong, so don't go too far on them. Maybe 2 more raisins. Yeah, like do a tropical one with papaya and pineapple. Dried pineapple, obviously. And then I'm going to add my coconut flakes. I mean, this is one of the main benefits of making a granola at home, is you can do it how you like it. It doesn't have to be the same every time, you can change it. Right guys, well I just went through all the nutritional value of everything. And the camera wasn't on apparently, so let's do it again. So our main ingredient was oats. Here I've got some of the oats. This is, like I said, this is the smaller oats rather than the larger ones because I've run out of them. So oats are so good for you. They are high in both soluble and insoluble fibre. So the soluble fibre is going to help lower our cholesterol. Cholesterol is that waxy fat that clogs up your arteries. So a diet that's high in soluble fibre is going to lower your risk of heart disease. It also contains insoluble fibre, which helps, clear out our digestive system. It helps give our waist bulk, so it gives our muscles something to push against, basically. And it's going to help lower your risk of things like diverticular disease and some forms of cancer, like bowel cancer, for example. It's going to lower your risk. It's not going to, it's not like if someone has bowel cancer is because they didn't have enough fibre. I don't want you to go away thinking that. It's just going to lower your risk. We have our flax seeds here. So you can see these ones are the milled ones, the ones that have been ground down. So that outer shell has been broken. They contain omega-3 fatty acids. This is one of our essential fatty acids that our body cannot make and we need. So if you are not a big fan of oily fish like salmon or mackerel or trout, which you should be having about 1 portion of a week, or at least 1 portion a week, then milled flax seeds are a good thing to include in your diet. They're also going to include some magnesium, and they're going to include some B vitamins such as vitamin B1 thiamine. B vitamins, of course, all different jobs, but they all help us access the energy in our food. We have pumpkin seeds, which contain a tiny amount of iron, but they do contain a little bit of iron. So yeah, this isn't fortified with iron, but we've got a little bit of iron in here. If you do put some cocoa nibs in, now this claims it's a good source of iron, and dark cocoa is a good source of iron. The thing is, you need a lot of it. So per 100 grams of these, that is 25% of your recommended daily amount. This entire bag was 125 grams. So that's not a huge amount of iron, you know. Like I said, they're very strong in flavour. There's no way you're managing to eat that much. So include them. They are going to get a bit of iron in there, but, you know, you need a lot of them to get your recommended daily amount. So we've got a tiny bit of iron. Obviously, we've got protein. There's protein in all of our seeds. Moving on to our nuts. Now, nuts are a fantastic source of protein. They are all high in fat. We're looking at unsaturated fats. They are low biological value proteins, but they are actually only missing one of the essential amino acids, which I think is lysine. Probably not pronouncing that right. But so yeah, so they're only missing one of the essential amino acids. So they're an excellent source of protein. We've got our almonds. Almonds contain vitamin E, which we need for our skin. They contain the tiniest amount of calcium. I wouldn't cite them as a good source, but there is a little bit of calcium in there. And of course, if you're eating this granola with yogurt, or if you're eating it with milk, then you're going to get the calcium from that. Or to be honest, any milk alternative that's been fortified with calcium. We've got our hazelnuts here. These ones, like I said, these are the ones in Nutella. So these ones contain some folate, some folic acid or folate, vitamin B9, which, if you remember, is essential when you are pregnant. It's going to help prevent spina bifida in the developing baby. So they are a good source of folic acid, folate. They're also a good source of vitamin E, so good for healthy skin. We have our pecans. Now, like our oats, our pecans are going to lower our risk of heart disease. They contain oleic acid, which again helps lower that cholesterol sitting in our arteries. They also contain some vitamin B3, some niacin, which I'm sure most of you have heard of in your face creams, but is, you know, again, another one of the B vitamins that's very good for you. Just like the, just like the flax seeds, the walnuts, Jesus, come on, brain. The walnuts do contain some omega-3 fatty acids. So those are excellent for you. They're not the sweetest of nuts, but they are very nice. So they do contain some omega-3, which is excellent for you. So definitely try and include some of them. The Brazil nuts, again, they're a good source of protein, and they contain some selenium. What's selenium? It is a trace element, so you need very little of it. It's needed for your thyroid and for your metabolism. And yeah, so that is, in a nutshell, the nutrients. Like I said, we're not kidding ourselves that this is a health food. If you eat too much of it, you are going to get way too much sugar. Way too much sugar. And nuts in excess can be very high in fat. But in smaller quantities, they are so good for you. They're so nutrient rich. And this granola is very high in fiber. Most of us are not hitting our recommended fiber intake for a day, which is around 30 grams for an average adult. It does contain protein in various different forms. I know lots of you are very concerned about your protein intake. I would like you to be a little more concerned about your fiber intake, particularly as teenagers, because I listen to what you've been eating, and lots of you are not eating fibre-rich diets, so I would love you to have a go at making this granola. And I'd like to see the pictures of what you make, and you can tell me what nuts and what fruit you put into yours. Thank you very much, guys.